Hey, welcome to Genre Exposure, a film podcast. Join us as we explore the wide world of cinema, broadening our horizons one movie at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Dustin, and back from across the pond, we have with us Jason.
Hello, everyone.
Wow.
Sorry, that was awful. Yes, I am back.
That's staying in. That's so staying in.
I have returned.
From across the pond.
Yes.
The lovely world of England.
Oh, it was great, man. It was so good.
And we're gonna hear all about it, I'm sure.
Well, I mean,
we're gonna spare us a little
there's
time.
not a lot to relate to the podcast. I didn't do a lot of movie stuff, unfortunately.
Okay, well,
I tried.
I mean, it's our show. You can be indulgent.
Well, there was this film museum in London I really wanted to go to because apparently they have like a bunch of James Bond stuff.
Oh, sweet.
Like they had a bunch of his gadgets. They had a couple of the cars. They had the Aston Martin from Goldfinger. They had the Lotus from The Spy Who Loved Me. I was like, yes, we're going to go. I'm going to go do this. And that was actually even, that was the night I got dog sick later on. I don't know why. I don't know if it was just like, the general anxiety, being in a new place. Maybe it was something I ate. Maybe it was my...
You were worried they were going to find out you were an American and then just
right.
stockade you.
And it was pretty obvious we were Americans. No, we get there, and the whole thing was given over to this Batman exhibit. Which, I mean, Batman's fine. Batman's cool,
like,
whatever.
We're talking general Batman or like one of the movies?
It was mostly the movies.
Oh, well...
And so all the other regular stuff you couldn't see. And that's what I went to go see.
That's sad.
And there was nothing about that on their website because I checked. Oh, it was annoying.
You're like, woohoo, James Bond. It's like, all right, Batman, though.
It's like, fuck. So anyway.
That's sad.
That's the one film-related thing I tried to do, but alas.
You went to some cool castles.
Went to some castles.
I like those photos.
Thank you.
Especially the ones of, like, going up in the tower and, like, actually, like... how it looks and like the narrow steps and stuff. I was like, damn.
That was Warwick Castle. It was amazing.
Really made me reflect on a lot of our Dungeons and Dragons playing and...
Oh, dude. I thought so much about role-playing games while I was there, and it was just amazing to actually be there, like a castle that's almost 1,000 years old. We went to Stonehenge.
Woo!
Got to touch the rocks.
That's awesome.
It was
Did you spew insects and other various nasties?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
Although the one night I got sick, it felt like it. But no, it was pretty fucking amazing.
The most wonderful trick of all. The trick of the children.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of Season of the Witch, Connell Cochran, his actor, is also in Twin Peaks, and we are remiss to say today that also, as of this recording, David Lynch has passed away.
Yep, the very day we were recording this.
Very sad.
One of the most important filmmakers, I think.
Ever.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Even if you don't like his films, you have to acknowledge that they are made, with care and love.
The talent, the craft.
Talent and originality.
He never half-assed anything.
No. Oh, and here's my cat, Sadie. She wants to say hi to everybody.
Oh, adorable. Love her.
If I keep the door shut, she'll meow. If I leave it open, she'll come in and meow.
Oh, you're a star.
You may hear a couple of cat meows.
If you enjoy Sadie meowing and want more of it, you should leave us a review on iTunes.
Give us 5 stars.
Oh, hello, little girl.
Say
How are
more
you?
Sadie. I'll have to post a picture of her.
You are adorable. Anyways, it's so sad, man. Like, God. And I know, she's,
You just want to make me edit, don't you? Come here. Okay.
Oh.
Come here.
She says, hold me, father.
I'm getting there. Okay. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, the fidelity on that is just...
She just wants to say hi.
Peak. Now, what were we talking about? Oh, yes.
The great David Lynch. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, hey, we got that final season of Twin Peaks.
We did, and it's fucking amazing. One of the most challenging pieces of media I think I've ever experienced.
I know it pissed a lot of people off.
It did. It pissed me off when I started it, and it was like I had to go all the way.
Yeah.
And the further I got, the more it like shot back that I was like, no, this is brilliant.
See, I like that it was pissing me off. Because that's one thing I like about Lynch. He's not really going to give you what you want.
Yeah.
He's going to give you what he wants.
Mm-hmm. And in some ways, it's what you need to see, even if you don't know it.
Right.
Which is cool. Do you have a favorite David Lynch film?
Yeah, I mean, it may be the most obvious mainstream answer, but Blue Velvet.
Oh, Big Blue Velvet's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's an amazing movie.
Mine's Lost Highway, I think. That's just the one I go back to.
Yeah,
the
that
most.
one's a bit more challenging, but it is very, very good too. He hasn't made a bad movie.
Oh no. Even his Dune is like
Oh, there's a lot to love about
so much
Dune.
cool stuff in there.
Yeah, I love Dune. I unapologetically like it. Do I like the new one more? Yes, but yeah.
Definitely for the time when they made it, there were constraints on, like, I guess the technology, the special effects and stuff.
Oh, sure.
To realize some of that.
Yeah,
But
and it was a Dino De Laurentiis movie. It's not like he had all the money in the world.
very true. So yeah, we love David Lynch. You know that if you've listened to the show. Very sad.
It's an excuse to just watch some Lynch films.
Yep.
Just celebrate his career.
Go check out one of his films in his honor, especially if you've never seen one. Like, I know Inland Empire is one a lot of people haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
I love that one. It's like, it almost makes like a little loose trilogy of like Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, Inland Empire, because they all kind of have that weird, trippy, what's going on vibe that kind of flows between them.
Right.
And like work with some different themes and stuff. Isn't that right, Sadie? Yes. Love David Lynch.
Did you ever see his short film, which I think it's one of the most frightening things he ever did?
We got rabbits.
Well, Alphabet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That
Yeah.
one's wild.
That is just, it's freaky as fuck. And it was one of his early ones. I think he made that before he made any movies.
Yeah.
Like even Eraserhead.
Which Eraserhead itself is just
It's so
such
freaky.
a trip.
So weird. Okay, I might have to do something with Sadie.
Okay. And then the last film I want to shout out, and this is because it just came to my mind like today when I was thinking about him. That HD cat meow. But Wild at Heart, not always seen as like
yeah.
one of his best, but dude,
Dude, I love Wild
super
at Heart.
good, yeah.
I love it. I love Willem Dafoe's Bobby Peru. What a fucking name.
Oh, and
what a performance.
Speaking of Defoe, we'll be talking about him later as well. 'Cause we
Yeah.
got to talk about Nosferatu. Mm-hmm. But what are we even here for today? We're talking about a movie that you picked, inspired by your trip overseas.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about The Creeping Flesh from 1973.
Sadie likes it.
Sadie confirms.
It's her seal of approval.
And which stars the legendary Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing,
Can't go wrong with that.
facing off as brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So
Or are they?
Or are they? Question mark. We'll get into all of that. We'll talk about what we've been watching, but we're also part of the Prescribed Films podcast network, and we love it. And there's all these other cool shows you could be checking out. So make sure you swing by there, see what other shows are going on, see what they're getting into, see what they're talking about. And, you know, whenever we have weird intermittent misses because of the weather and we get snowed in and places lose power and internet and have to keep turning to stay with my mic because the cattail is moving it. You know, you can fill that time with when you miss genre exposure. You can check out another podcast and you can be like, wow, those genre exposure guys kind of suck. But hey, it's whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to listen to these professionals who won't let weather get in the way and don't let their cat just walk all over the place.
That's not why you're here. You're here because who else would cover all 5 Death Forest films?
That's all you, motherfucker. That's all you.
No, I am. If you haven't listened to any of those episodes, I'm truly stunned that of all those films, the final one is the best one.
That's hilarious.
It's literally mind blowing.
It's so funny how it worked out. That
It's
way.
like it got there and they're like, whatever. Here's the money for this. Do whatever you want. And they're like, fuck it, we ball. Put them in Tokyo.
Nice.
But yeah, so I think what I want to know now is what have you been watching? Besides Nosferatu.
Well, we're going to
save
talk
that
about
for you.
Nosferatu. I haven't been able to watch a lot, to be honest with you.
You've been experiencing.
Yeah, I've been experiencing and then getting back and getting everything in order. We've been working on some... Oh, God.
Whoa.
All right, I'm going to do something for this cat.
Okay.
Hang on real quick. One movie I watched recently was Saturday Night, which was the...
Live?
It's about the first episode of Saturday Night Live. Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's airing. So it's pretty much told in real time.
Oh, interesting.
It starts when they have like an hour and a half until showtime. So it's all this just chaos and shit happening up until then.
Yeah, I imagine doing that for the first time. It was probably...
Yeah, because really wasn't a show like that.
Yeah.
You know? And of course everyone's insane. Everyone's on drugs. Yeah, it's really funny. It's really good. If you're a fan of the early Saturday Night Live, you know, episodes like I am.
When it was funny?
Yeah.
Oh!
Well, it was great in the 70s, sucked in the early 80s, started getting good in the late 80s. in the early 90s maybe. And then it started sucking again.
In the 90s, they got competition because you had like In Living Color.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome.
It started getting stale. But anyway, so I really recommend that. It's a good, fun movie to watch. And Skeleton Crew just wrapped up on Disney. Star Wars show.
Yeah. That's the kid one, right?
Yes. It's Space Goonies.
Yeah, there's like a little owl guy in the poster.
Owl girl.
Okay. Well.
Yes.
Oh, it's kind of hard to tell the gender there.
Well, maybe you shouldn't assume, Dustin.
Okay, and then there's someone with like a bad Cyclops visor I saw.
Bad Cyclops visor. Yes, that is KB. She has cybernetic implants.
Cool, I guess.
You know, I probably even talked about it on here. I was poo-pooing the show.
Yeah.
I thought it looked like shit. I thought the concept was shit. I was ready to hate it.
Did your heart grow 3 sizes that day?
It did. I started watching it, and yeah, it won me over.
Wow.
Wisely, they begin with a really killer action sequence.
Wow.
So it lets you know it's not going to be just kiddie shit, you know. I think it's probably the third best live-action Star Wars show after Andor and The Mandalorian.
Cool.
So if you haven't abandoned Star Wars, if you're not a Disney hater, and you haven't seen Skeleton Crew for some reason, maybe you feel burned by The Acolyte or whatever, give it a shot.
I will applaud them for like jumping in with the action because I think critically, and I've said it before in the past, they kind of done this thing of like, we're going to do the thing in season 2 or maybe 3 or perhaps 4.
And that's one thing with no spoilers. I will say that this is a self-contained season.
Awesome. That's
great.
great.
If we don't get a second season, this ends at a great place. It tells a story, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. None of that J.J. Abrams mystery box bullshit. You know?
Well, cool. I applaud them then. I will not watch it because I don't care, but
didn't you just get Disney Plus? You told me this today.
Oh, no. Yeah, we had to talk about that too, yeah. In the scheme of trying to keep it cheap, I guess like prices raised on some stuff, and Tiffany made the executive decision that it was cheaper to have the like Hulu Max Disney Plus package. So I have that option now.
Well, I guess that's the upside of a corporation owning half of everything.
They make themselves the only option and then lock you in. Yeah, it's fine.
But dude, I think you definitely need to watch Andor. If I could make you watch one Star Wars show, it would be Andor.
Okay. I'll get to that when I finish all those Shaw Brothers box sets, maybe.
Okay, well, that's never going to happen. Okay, what besides Nosferatu, which we will talk about in a moment, what have you been watching?
I'm only going to talk about one other than that. Went to see Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and wow. Who thought that a licensed video game franchise IP would only get better as it goes film by film?
This is all
that.
you.
Yeah.
This is something I can't relate to. And
big deal if you're a Sonic the Hedgehog fan. This one adapted the plot of Sonic Adventure 2, which notably was the introduction of Shadow the Hedgehog, his sort of evil nemesis foil that in true anime BS fashion eventually becomes an ally and a friend. It was great. It was fucking awesome. It was super fun. I felt like they looked at the second film and where that one kind of stumbled a little bit, and they tried to course correct it. If you don't remember that second one, it was pretty good, but it had a lot of the human plot. And there was this big like side plot thing about like the main chick's sister getting married in like a paradise location, and they kept cutting to that and doing like goofy antics there, and it's like, this is a Sonic movie though.
I see.
We don't want this. So they really dialed back, and like there is human stuff in there. There's the human characters are present, but it's in service to the main plot and to build the story further, which is, you know, good storytelling.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was super fun. Keanu Reeves played Shadow the Hedgehog. I thought he did a great job.
Okay.
Really delivered it. Action was great. The fights were great. I mean, it's not like a revolutionary movie. It's not gonna like change your outlook on the world or anything, you know. But it is cool. They stepped really faithful to like the core of the story of Shadow, as far as like his origin, why he's evil, everything that happened, all of that, and then like the redemptive arc that he goes through to decide to help instead of be a menace. So that's awesome. And then I think the other thing I really got to say about it is Jim Carrey giving one of the greatest performances of all time, not just as the reoccurring Sonic villain Eggman, aka Dr. Robotnik, but as part of the whole Shadow plot, they bring in his grandfather, Gerald Robotnik, who is even more crazy and also more evil. And Jim Carrey played both roles. He did an amazing job. He had a very distinct persona for each one. And God, they did so many gags of just like him interacting with himself and playing off one another.
Okay.
And it was taking me back to like The Mask and shit, like levels of just like visual and like timing comedy. It was so good.
Nice.
There's this whole bit where like they're trying to get these keys to activate this big mega weapon thing, and they're breaking into a vault, and they sneak in, and he's like made these suits that will reflect the lasers. That's like the grid system to guard it. And I think like if it normally hits you, it would just like cut you in half. But he's made like a suit that will like reflect the lasers. So they do a whole like cued to music dance routine where they dance through the entire hallway of lasers to the other door.
Okay.
For no reason.
For no reason.
Yeah.
Because it's fun.
Because it's fun and it's great. And it's super awesome. There's two post-credit teasers setting up more stuff going on. We're definitely going to get a fourth film. Maybe more. Who knows? The teaser was cool. It introduced some more of the characters from the games that haven't been brought over into the films yet. I won't spoil that other than to say that if you're like a diehard Sonic fan, you'll probably be excited. And I've probably scared off most of our regular audience by now because as a kid, I was the one that had the Sega and I was obsessed with Sonic and I've always loved it. And I'm so happy these movies exist and that they're
You were the Sega kid. That explains a lot.
And there's just any level that these have come out good somehow. It's just like, oh, so good. It's amazing. Love it.
All right.
Now, let's talk about Nosferatu, which we have both seen since last time, which was our big debate of this could change our top 10s for last year. This could be everything.
Yes.
Who would like to start?
You go first.
Okay.
Because I think I'm more positive than you.
Yeah, you are. So, what do I want to say about this movie? Robert Eggers, The Witch, The Lighthouse, The Northman.
Amazing director.
One of the goats. I think we put him on our Masters of Horror list.
He's up there, yes.
Yeah, he's up there. He's one of the guys. I did not like this movie.
You didn't like it at all?
Here's the redeeming things about it. The visuals are fucking amazing.
Of course.
5 stars on those.
That goes without saying.
Beautiful, gorgeous. Every shot, the way it's framed, the way it's angled, the way the set's designed, the visuals, the costuming, the makeup. Anything that is a visual thing is amazing and perfect.
Okay.
Love it. No notes.
So technically you think it's a great looking movie.
It's a competently shot and edited film.
Okay. I'd say it's more than competently, but yes. Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a lot to unpack my feelings about why I didn't like it. Where should I start? Let me start with. I don't want to bully her first. Let me start with. I felt like maybe it was kind of held back some by like studio stuff, and I don't know if that's true or not. And I don't think there's been any talking of that either way or the other. And it just felt like it was trying to be one kind of thing, but then it never went there, and instead just did something else. Like, there's a lot of subtext of, like, sexuality, sensuality built into the story, which, it's based on a film that was a bootleg of Dracula. So, that goes hand in hand with the concept.
Sure. Vampire sex, yeah.
Yep. Classic premise. But it felt like it wanted so bad to be this, like, horny vampire movie, but then it never, like, went all the way into being the horny vampire movie.
So I don't think it wanted to be.
And then at the other times, like, it wanted to be this really scary vampire movie, but it never went all the way to be that scary vampire movie. And it kind of just like bounced between those and never like committed to one or the other.
Okay.
Even some of the stuff like the vampire dong, like it's just like whatever, it's there. It didn't seem to like. I don't know what I was expecting from it, but
Okay.
I felt nothing when I saw it.
Okay.
And then like, I felt like a lot of the plot beats and the way they were executed felt like super derivative of other versions of the film. And I know that's hard to avoid because you're all pulling from the same well. But there were so many moments where it was like I was just getting Bram Stoker Dracula vibes. But then like in that moment I would be like, but it's not as good as Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, see, I would disagree completely with that.
I think that's like the peak Dracula adaptation.
Ooh, yeah. There's things I like about that, but there's things I don't like about that.
And I guess we'll get into this now. I think I'm not seeing her in a lot of stuff, but Lily Rose Depp in this film, like, I know she gets a lot of, like, the Nepo baby thing thrown at her, and I'm not saying that, but I did not like her in this film as this character.
I thought she was great.
It felt like she was in a different movie the entire time. Like, everyone else kind of gelled, at least in, like, okay, these all seem people in the same world, and then she felt like, oh, man, I hate to say this, but it was my thought when I walked out. She felt like she was like a stage actor at like a Ren Fair performing, like apart from everyone else.
Okay.
In a lot of ways.
All right. Let me speak to that real quick.
Okay, sure.
Because I do think her character is supposed to be separate from everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether or not it's intentional or not, I think it is to a degree because she is like different from everyone else. She is by herself in a lot of ways because she has this, history with Nosferatu, whatever. She has this obsession.
Sure.
So I think that's intentional. I think she's supposed to be kind of isolated.
Narratively, I can get that. But performance-wise, I don't know.
See, I thought her performance was very good. Oh. I thought it was very brave and very good.
Wow, okay.
And I'm not a fan of hers. Like, I haven't seen her in anything that I was like, oh, wow, she's great in that, Yeah. But, no, I think she brought it in this.
What was she in?
Yoga Hosers. Which I did not watch.
Tusk. I don't remember Tusk very well.
Didn't watch it. Kevin Smith, I'm not really a fan.
Yeah. Okay, well... Willem Dafoe, though. Woo!
Well, he owns everything.
He always brings it.
But he's great in this. He's got a couple of great laughs, too.
He does.
And this is one of the things, like, if you're comparing this with, like, Bram Stoker's Dracula, the Francis Ford Coppola version, this is one thing I really love about this one more than that one, because I hated Anthony Hopkins in that. I fucking hated him. Yeah.
Oh, man, I love him.
He was just way over the top. It was way too much. I found it annoying. And I love Willem Dafoe's version of basically the same character. Because, this is based on Dracula, of course.
Some other drive-by shots here real quick. Mm-hmm. I thought their version for the Renfield character was, like, woefully underutilized. I felt like he barely had any impact and was kind of just...
I don't agree with that, because he kind of just more or less disappears at some point.
But really, like, the big thing for me, I guess, is just the top-level, like, theming of it all. Because, like, we have this one thing of, like... when she's a kid, she's lonely, she's wishing for company, and that kind of like awakens and summons Nosferatu, and that's set up, and then it's like tied into sexuality and stuff, and there's this whole thread of like, well, she's like a little more like deviant compared to what's normal for the time, with like her passions and that kind of thing. And so they're building all that up, and I'm like, okay, cool, I get that, I'm feeling that, that's a cool angle to go on. So then when he comes to the city, they kind of frame Nosferatu like there's all kinds of ways you can frame a classical Dracula vampire, right? Mm-hmm. You can have like the monster, which that was the OG Nosferatu. You can have like the sensual charmer, Gary Oldman when he's in his youthful form.
Frank Langella.
Yeah, take your pick. Whoever is your sexy Dracula actor.
Jack Palance.
Yeah, whoever. Christopher Lee.
Sure.
Good looking guy. But in this one, it's almost like they've staged him like he's a plague, like he's more of a force of evil, and they mirror that with the rats that get infested in the city and do bring the plague. It's almost like a metaphor for his influence. And I don't know, it just like it lost me in that part because then where it ends up going, is it a spoiler? I don't know. This is a story everyone knows, but I won't say the ending. But it gets to a point where it's like. The only solution is like, oh, she has to sacrifice herself to Nosferatu, and that's the only way it's gonna work out and save the day. And it felt very like when it gets to that point and it shifts that way, it felt very like I hate to say puritanical, but it felt puritanical. It's like at first we were like talking about like her sexuality and how it's like out of kilter with society at the time, and I felt like we were gonna go into a place where it's like she's not wrong for that. Is like where we're gonna go, but then it more went into a thing of like, no, she has to like subsume who she is and just sacrifice herself, and kind of be this like martyr to then remove the plague.
There's aspects of this that are dovetailing nicely with Creeping Flesh.
There is, and that really didn't sit well with me, and that was what kind of tanked the film for me at the end there, because I was like, no, fuck that.
Okay,
why can't she be a horny chick that just like is all up
on
things?
That's just it, because society won't let her, so she can't exist. I think that's the point.
But I don't like the conclusion that she just has to sacrifice herself to save everyone, and I don't know. Based on those earlier setup pieces, I didn't like that was the outcome.
Okay.
So let me say though, I gave it like 3 stars because again, it is on a technical level a marvel.
Sure.
Very well made and executed.
Yeah, I feel completely opposite. This is almost a perfect movie. I'd give it like 4.5. I think is what I gave it.
Oh yeah.
Like for reference, I would give The Witch and The Lighthouse 5 stars. Northman, which I liked but didn't love, that's like a 3.5 or 4 star.
I think I gave that one a 4, and I gave the other 2 5s.
This is a 4.5 because there's parts that kind of, I think it does keep you at a distance a little too much sometimes. That's my only real complaint. But yeah, everything you mentioned, the technical aspects, it's gorgeous, shot gorgeous. I like all the actors. I liked Skarsgård's performance. I love the fact that he's almost always in shadow, and that effect with his voice is just so amazing to me. And I love Nicholas Hoult, his reaction when he's meeting Orlok, and 'cause he looks like he's about to cry, like he's so fucking scared.
Yeah,
and it's such a naturalistic, real reaction. So I love the voice. I like the look. It's a little odd at first. You're really not prepared when you see Nosferatu. You're really not prepared for this. But he's basically an undead Cossack.
Yeah, which is where the historical side comes in.
Right. And that's Eggers doing all his research and stuff. But there's something about his look that just works. Because he looks like he's trying to be a normal person, but he's really this rotting, undead, plague-infested fiend,
Yeah, it gave me very... one of the clans in Vampire the Masquerade is the Zamis. And they're kind of from that Eastern European, old world style. And definitely when I saw him, I was like, oh, that could easily fill in for that type of character.
Sure, yeah. And I like Lily Rose Depp. I think her performance is great. It's very sensual. It's erotic. It's she's very much a goth girl.
Not enough.
I don't think it needed to go full sexual, and I'm glad it didn't. The subtext is there, and that's really all you need.
Where's the A24 logo on this? Quit being a bitch and go the whole way.
Because I really don't like the sexual seductive Dracula that much. Because he's really not like that in the book. He's a fucking fiend.
Yeah, you're not going to get anywhere with me on that because, I, as I just mentioned, I grew up with Vampire the Masquerade. So.
Sure. And that's one of my biggest problems with Francis Ford Coppola's version. There's too much of that bullshit, because that's not in the book. It's not Dracula. I don't think it's Dracula. I mean, in this movie, it's a very unhealthy relationship. And that's, that's the only type of relationship he can have with anyone. But no, I love the movie. The performances are great. The Defoe's great. It has cats in it, so that's a plus. Yeah, I mean, I really loved it.
Has Vampire Dong.
What more you want? Yeah, so I recommend it heartily. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's worth seeing in the big screen. Try to go when no one else is there, because it's an Eggers movie. It's quiet in parts, and you might get some mouth breather who.
It's boring. I fell asleep.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah, I think we disagree on this one.
Sure, which is fine, because it's okay to be wrong.
Yeah, sure.
How long has it been since I've said that?
I don't know, a couple days.
I think that brings us to Creeping Flesh.
Speaking of undead Dracula dong.
Okay, where are you going with this?
Our movie is The Creeping Flesh.
Yes, from 1973, directed by Freddie Francis.
And we have another, strangely, a pretty heavy connection with David Lynch here.
Oh?
Do you know what this is? Do you know the connection?
Continue.
Freddie Francis was his cinematographer, Lynch's cinematographer for The Elephant Man, for Dune, and for The Straight Story.
Interesting. Kind of his more mainstream-ish pieces that he's done.
But it's a testament to Freddie Francis as a cinematographer, especially, that David Lynch would use him multiple times. So, I mean, that's heavy praise.
That's cool.
And, of course, we all know Freddie Francis was one of the big Hammer directors.
Yep.
And he did some Amicus films.
He did some big ones, too, like Tales from the Crypt, didn't he? Like the OG.
Tales from the Crypt.
Oh, yeah.
The Evil of Frankenstein, which...
Dracula Has Risen from His Grave.
Dr. Terror's House of Horrors.
Epic.
The Skull. Did you ever see The Skull?
I have not. Oh, he did Trog.
See, I almost picked...
Most garbage film ever, but it's so funny.
I almost picked The Skull before I settled on this one.
Well, I'm glad you picked this one. Let me just say that out the front.
Excellent.
But what genre is this?
Man, this is gothic horror through and through.
Interesting. IMDb and Letterboxd both say sci-fi horror.
I mean, there's some science fiction in there,
There
but
is.
it's really
It's pretty soft if we're talking about the quality of the science fiction, though.
it's vaguely Lovecraftian
Yeah.
type science fiction.
And then, of course, Wikipedia clarifies British horror.
Yeah, sure.
Can't overlook that aspect
You
of
cannot. Yeah, I was definitely in the mood for a British horror, especially a Victorian one after coming back from England.
it. Sure, well, this one delivered. I have a synopsis, or do you have it, or I can read it?
You go for it.
Okay. A scientist comes to believe that evil is a disease of the blood, and that the flesh of a skeleton he has brought back from New Guinea contains it in a pure form. Convinced that his wife, a dancer who went insane, manifested this evil, he is terrified that it will be passed on to his daughter. He tries to use the skeleton's blood to immunize her against this eventuality, but his attempt has anything but the desired result. Now, that was the second synopsis I found, because the first one made it sound like the skeleton comes to life and kills everyone, which is not what this movie is about.
Right.
You may be misled to assume that based on the poster, which is pretty gnarly.
Yeah, it's a great poster.
It's a pretty amazing poster. But yeah, it's a much more psychological horror film than a, ooh, here's a monster film.
Yeah, it's definitely not a monster movie.
Yeah.
And speaking of bitchin' artwork, the very beginning of the movie opens with this really kick-ass painting.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like, it reminds me of the stuff that Michael Whalen did for the Lovecraft paperbacks.
Oh, I love those. I have that whole like Del Rey set with that art on it.
Yeah, it reminds me so much of that. And this is a movie I saw in my youth. I think I saw it on TBS because they would always play the old horror flicks. And I remember that sticking in my head, that image of the painting. It's like this demonic like figure. It looks like he's eating a big pile of flesh or something.
It's awesome.
Peter Cushing, he's like painting this painting, and he's in this like pretty stark white room, but there's like laboratory equipment everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Which he is playing Emmanuel Hildern.
Mm-hmm. And he has a visitor, and he's telling his visitor about how evil is a plague. It's a literal germ.
Mm-hmm. He's studied it. He's researched it. He knows all about it.
Yep. And he's a little frazzled, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he recounts his tale from 3 years earlier in 1893. He said he found something from New Guinea and brought it back to his house in England.
Yeah, so we got a little bit of like a frame story going on.
Yep.
We spend the majority of the film in the story, though, which is cool.
Mm-hmm. So he gets home. He's greeted by Penelope, his daughter.
Played by Lorna Heilbronn.
She's good. I think she's very good in this.
Heilbronn.
Okay, there you go. So he dotes over her. You know, he obviously loves her.
He also is pretty protective of her.
Very, very
He
protective.
keeps her very sheltered.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't let her go out much.
And we also see he's a little absent-minded because he doesn't know the name of the housekeeper. Like he forgets. Either he's just, you know, an uppity, rude British person at the time who can't be bothered to remember the servants' names, or he's just a little forgetful.
I think he's one of those people, like, he's all about the work.
Right.
Like, that's always in his mind 24/7. And living a normal life is, like, secondary to that.
Yeah, because he also fails to tip the men who bring the crate in. And in this
Yes.
crate is this big, large, monstrous skeleton.
Huge humanoid skeleton that he thinks might be the missing link.
Yeah. He says it's more advanced than any creature found before, but in a deeper layer of earth that it was found in.
Yeah.
So it's older.
Which suggests there must have been a more advanced civilization that existed before us.
Mm-hmm.
That then fell, and society is built back up.
Yep. So he gets drawn into his work. He's ignoring his daughter and everything.
He's hoping to win, was it the Richter Prize they call it?
The Richter Prize, yeah. He finally gets to breakfast, and Penelope's talking about him and saying that money is running out. She's been managing the household since he's been out gallivanting and stuff like that. And he gets a letter that he's opening because he's just kind of like, you know, brushing over her fears. And the letter informs him that his wife has died.
Yeah. And
the letter's from a sanitarium.
And the order they tell this makes it very confusing because at first he's talking to the daughter Penelope like the wife is still alive.
Well, he's talking to... No, Penelope thinks her mother's dead.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, already dead.
Because I think there's a line in there about how she died when she was young.
Yeah, it's so confusing. I mixed it up. So,
Yeah, right.
She thinks the wife, her mother died when she was little.
Yes.
But actually she went crazy and was put into an asylum.
Yep.
And they've been keeping it a secret this entire time.
Yep.
But now she has actually died.
Yep. And so Emmanuel goes to... It's hard to say Emmanuel and not think of like Sylvia Christel or Laura Gimser or something.
Emmanuel. The galaxy.
This is not that Emmanuel. So he goes to the asylum, and it's run by his half-brother,
yes.
James Hildern.
Played by Christopher Lee.
Yes, the consummate Christopher Lee. In any movie we've got Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee is just the best.
It is.
It's like peanut butter and jelly, man. I mean, it just goes fucking
it just
together.
Works. You forgive so much whenever they just start going back and forth.
Because they're so fucking earnest. You believe every word they say.
Yeah.
Especially Cushing. He can utter the most ridiculous tripe, and he does in this movie.
Also, yeah, he does here in a minute.
And he makes you believe every word of it. It's amazing. So James asks Emmanuel when he's going to tell Penelope the truth.
Yep.
Because James knows that he's been lying this entire time.
It's probably time to finally let her know.
Yeah. But Emmanuel says that he's afraid that his wife's illness is hereditary.
Yeah.
He's afraid the same thing that happened to his wife will happen to his daughter.
And we get a little bit more info, too. We learn that James has kind of been funding these expeditions.
Yeah.
Because he's been hoping that he'll make a big discovery and then they'll all profit from it. Mm-hmm. And James kind of just throws the hammer down and he's like, hey, I'm not backing you again.
Right.
This is it.
And he shows him this treatise he's been writing on mental illness.
Yeah.
And he's submitting it for the Richter Prize.
Yeah.
So there's some competition here. There's some bitterness.
Yeah.
And while Emmanuel leaves, one of the inmates escapes.
Yeah. And we get a little bit of James doing his experiments and stuff. It's a lot of shock therapy and kind of disturbing stuff.
Yeah.
They've got the secret cells hidden away where they have the really...
Cushing sees this as he's leaving and he's affected by it because he's like, is that what they did to my wife?
Yeah. A little guilt sitting in there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so now he's under the gun because he has competition. He has to be successful with this skeleton or that's it.
He's running out of money. He gets back home and he finds Penelope reading a romance magazine.
Yeah.
And this upsets him.
She's a grown woman now, and she's starting to feel away. And Emmanuel's not having it.
Right. And Penelope thinks it may belong to her mother, so she wants to know more about her. She's reading this magazine.
But now, granted, if it was the other Emmanuel, she would absolutely be about it.
She would be all about it.
But yeah, so...
this is where we get a line where she thinks her mother died when she was a little girl. Yeah. So she just doesn't know her.
Yeah, so I had to pause it there because I was like, the fuck is going on? We just established that she already knew she was dead. And I was like, wait a minute. Yeah.
So again, Cushing just kind of shoos her away, says, don't think about your mom. It's fine, blah, blah, blah.
There's research to be done.
There's work to be done, woman. So he goes to work and he's cleaning the skeleton.
It's all dirty and old.
Sure, he dug it out of the ground.
Yeah.
But as he's applying water to one of those big bony fingers, before his eyes...
It morphs into a penis.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that.
So I saw it. I thought it. I smiled. I turned to look to see... Tiffany watched this with me.
Yeah.
She was already smiling, and then we both just started fucking laughing.
Right.
It looks kind of like a penis.
Because it grows flesh, and it's this reverse process where they do the whole wax, melt it, and everything.
That part looks great.
Yeah, it looks great.
Awesome effect.
And he's like, what the fuck? No, this isn't normal. And he chisels off the finger.
Yeah.
And especially when he's holding it up, it just looks like a big veiny dong.
I mean, it's a big finger. I'm just saying, it's meaty.
It looks like a big deveined, shrimpy dong.
Maybe that's the vampire dong.
It's Count Orlok's dong. He's going to show up. I've been looking for that.
Oh, it's good there's nobody that can cancel us.
Yeah.
At least I think there's not.
Yeah.
We'll see. But yeah, so he's alarmed by this, and he decides to do a little research, halts his work on the skeleton, hits the books, gets to looking into things.
Mm-hmm. And while this is going on, we see James working on some weird experiment with a disembodied arm. He's pulling on Dr. Frankenstein.
I was thinking Herbert West, man.
Yeah, sure.
Because he even starts to talk about these samples aren't good. I need better samples.
Yeah, he's using the inmates. Yeah.
I was just waiting for him to go. It wasn't fresh enough.
And so James goes into the cells investigating how Lenny, this is the name of the man who escaped,
played by Kenneth J. Warren.
He's trying to figure out how he escaped. And there's another prisoner's cell isn't locked for some reason, and the guy comes right out and he attacks James, takes his keys, and he's running for the door.
Yeah.
But James pulls out this pistol and just fucking shoots the guy like 3 times.
Dude, don't fuck with Christopher Lee, man.
Do not fuck with Christopher Lee. He will fuck your world up.
That was your first mistake.
Yeah. So then we cut back to Emmanuel. He's talking to his assistant.
Is that Waterloo?
Yeah, Professor Waterloo.
Yeah, played by George Benson. And he's like, Waterloo, I figured it out.
Yeah, and he stops his assistant too right when he was about to clean the skeleton more. He's
Yeah.
like, nope, don't do that, don't do that.
It's a very like, by God, man, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna let you explain this.
Okay. What am I
So
explaining?
what did he uncover in his research?
Okay, so he's talking about a legend regarding the tears of a god awakening evil.
Mm-hmm.
He says that the skeleton would have been exposed naturally in 2,000 years if they hadn't dug it up. And once it got exposed, it would have gotten rained on.
It connects to an
water,
ancient prophecy.
Right. And then this evil would have lived again and walked the earth.
And wiped everything out.
Right.
And he kind of suggests it's like a cyclical thing of like civilization builds up, this evil gets unearthed, everyone gets wiped out.
Yes. And he's
There you go.
examining the blood and stuff, and he sees these little weird cells in there with these like tendrils.
Yeah.
So he comes to the conclusion.
Little COVID-19s bouncing around in there.
Right. He comes to the conclusion that this is the embodiment of evil, and he can use this to vaccinate people against it. He supposes, his theory is that evil is a disease.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Ergo, you could use it to vaccinate someone. Now, his mind is clearly kind of on one track. He's clearly overshadowed by the experience of his wife, because we find out shortly that she was in the insane asylum. She had gone insane. But he thinks, to him, it was more than that. We get a flashback about her in a little bit. We'll just talk about that right now.
Yeah, because it's more relevant to know now.
Yeah. So she was this dancer.
Mm-hmm. They had a term for it, and I totally lost it. But
Yeah,
it was a certain style.
Yeah.
But
And he was married to her, but he wasn't enough for her, apparently. So she started messing around with other men.
Mm-hmm. See, I was confused because it kind of implied that, but also kind of implied, like, was she maybe, like, a prostitute or something, or, like, sleeping around with people that way, or...
So I never got the impression that she was really a prostitute so much as just living life.
Put a pin in that thought, because I'll bring up some stuff later.
Sure. So she went insane. Mm-hmm. And at this point, I'm thinking to myself, was it like syphilis or something?
Yeah, Tiffany brought that up immediately.
Yeah.
Nurse Brain over there.
Right. So he has her locked away and just fucking tells their daughter that she's dead. Jesus Christ.
And then has basically little to do with her until she dies.
So this movie likes to conflate insanity with evil.
Mm-hmm. Just dangerous. Mm-hmm. But he is making that choice, not the film itself.
Yes.
So that's this character who's a very flawed individual.
And he's examining this finger. And I wrote down in my notes, I said, man, that finger looks a lot like a severed dick.
Also, this is the other thing I want to talk about, and Tiffany brought this up right away. To be like a scientist that is supposed to know what he's doing and may have some sort of medical degree, perhaps. I don't know. It's never really stated for sure. My God, dude. He's like barehanded, taking around the evil penis thing. He's drawing blood out of it and just splatting it down on like a slide with like no gloves, no anything, and just like...
Well, this was the 1890s.
I know, but God damn, dude, come on.
Yeah, I know.
You're talking about, this is pure concentrated evil.
You don't want to just accidentally spill some of that on yourself.
Or expose yourself, or then what's going to happen? Come on.
We find out shortly that he is not a fan of the scientific method.
No, he is not. He's actually not a good scientist, it turns out.
You are a poor scientist, Dr. Venkman. Yeah, so
he starts working to develop a serum.
Yeah, because he exposes the evil cells to his own cells, and he sees that these evil tendry cells are like taking over his.
Yeah.
And he's like, see? Evil's a disease.
Yeah, we can cure it. Mm-hmm. And they get it some monkeys, and they're going to experiment on them first.
Yeah, yeah. He makes a serum and puts it in one of the monkeys.
Which don't worry, they very nicely kind of frame it so they don't actually hurt the monkey.
Right. Meanwhile, Penelope has stolen some keys and creeps up to her mom's room, which is always locked.
He forbade her from ever going in there.
Yep.
But she yearns to go because she wants to know more about her mother.
Right. And this room has been sealed. It's been untouched for years. And she finds like a newspaper article about a famous Parisian dancer being committed to an asylum. And there's the letter from James is there about her passing away, which is like a couple of days ago. So she's putting it together.
Why he just left that there in the open, I don't know, but
so confident was he that Penelope would always mind him.
Yeah.
So she's finding all this shit out. Meanwhile,
and she's kind of losing her shit because
well, yeah,
that's a
her
big thing
dad's
to go through.
Lied to her, and
so Emmanuel finds her.
There's a scene where they test the monkey first.
Oh yeah.
They test the monkey's blood after giving it the serum, and they see that the monkey cells are fighting off the evil cells.
Yeah,
it's like it works.
They've inoculated the monkey.
Yep. And he watches it for like literally a minute before. Oh well, I'm going to bed now. No need to examine this any further. It's obviously a success.
He's like, all right, Waterloo, you can clean up down here, and I'll see you in the morning.
Yeah. But right after he goes to bed, we see the evil cells taking over the monkey cells.
Yes.
If he had waited like 2 minutes later.
If he gave, an appropriate amount of time to study something.
Right. Or maybe say something like, I'm going to give this a while. I'm going to let this cook overnight. I'm going to come check it in the morning, Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's going to bed. He sees the bedroom door open to his wife's room, and he hears a piano playing.
Yeah.
And he's thinking, oh shit, it's my wife. Because he sees her from the back. He thinks it's Marguerite. But then he goes up and sees that it's his daughter in his wife's clothes.
Oh yeah, he gets kind of mad.
He does. And she's like, how come you never told me what really happened?
And she does kind of blow up on him here, but it's rightfully so.
Yeah, she fucking, she could have at least known her mother to some degree, but he denied her this.
And in his infinite wisdom, in response to this, Emmanuel decides, oh, this must be the first sign of her also going crazy. I better hurry up with that serum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's infected by this evil because now she's getting curious about the world and putting on alluring outfits and That's when we get the flashback explaining what happened to Margaret. And I wrote down in my notes, it's like syphilis, drug or alcohol addiction,
or all of the above.
Yeah, or just somebody wanting to have a good time.
And I like that the film doesn't give us the definitive answer because that makes it. Like that little bit of vagueness makes it like more interesting, I think.
Right.
Because that's what it is, or is it just kind of Emmanuel, like, his weird worldview?
Yeah, right.
Where he's conflated like evil and insanity together.
Yeah. So Emmanuel, in his infinite wisdom, immediately inoculates his daughter against the evil without checking the monkey's blood cells, without doing anything. He's just jabbing that needle in her.
And we get some more shots in between of like Lenny running around the city evading the cops, and
he's running around the city. He's going to some taverns. There's some women of the night working there. He's assaulting one of them, and this big brawl breaks out, and he's just kicking everyone's ass.
Yeah, this dude's strong.
Yeah. So he's still out there causing havoc. And the next morning, the doctors find the monkey out of the cage, and he's dying. It's on the floor, and he's like overcome with evil, I guess.
Yeah. The monkey went berserk.
Yeah, the place is trashed. He flung poo everywhere.
But that's not all. Penelope's ran away.
Penelope has run away. And I wrote here that Emmanuel realizes he did not make good scientific judgment. And we see Penelope out about town, dressed in her mother's somewhat provocative clothing.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to get that Richter Prize.
No, he is not.
But so, of course, he realizes I have to find Penelope. Yep. I have to try to reverse this somehow.
Right.
Well, does he even do anything? Does he make a thing? Or I don't remember.
I think he's mostly just worried about his daughter going out and being evil.
Yeah.
So we see her go to this rowdy tavern. It's the same one that Lenny was out. They fixed everything.
It's weird because it feels like it's a tavern in like a Universal Monsters movie or something.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, there are some pubs that still look pretty fucking old today. So,
Oh, did you go to this pub when you were...
Not that one pub, no. But I saw some that were pretty old. Anyway, so yeah, she's ordering drinks. She just doesn't have any money.
Yep.
But she catches the attention of a somewhat aristocratic man.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where it's like you're the noble and you go slumming it.
Right.
And he's into her.
Yeah. So he gets her some drinks. He takes her upstairs. He thinks that she is a lady of the night, And despite being infected by evil, She doesn't want to get down with this guy, and she's fighting the man off.
But this is one of the first times I got like a hint of maybe like the prostitution or some kind of angle like that. Because a specific line that he says to her, whenever she's kind of trying to pull away the first time, he's like, "The only women that wear a dress like that are the kind of ladies downstairs."
Right. Yeah.
So then I was kind of like, I mean, but that's just his opinion, I guess. But
Well, I mean,
it did kind of plant that seed of like,
Well, in the Victorian age, yeah, probably. You know, probably most respectable women wouldn't go around dressed like that.
Yeah.
You know. So she's fighting him off, and she just like gouges into his face. She's scratching his face, and he's all bloodied. And he has this great reaction that it's like, "How dare you try to defend yourself when I'm trying to sexually assault you?"
Yes.
The gall. And he leaves. And yeah, it's like, is this supposed to be evil? You know,
I don't know.
She's defending herself as somehow evil. You know,
And it's funny because then she just goes back down and tries to keep partying. She's like dancing and stuff.
yeah.
And
She goes back downstairs, and they're playing the music. She begins to dance, and she's just having a good time dancing, right? And you know, guys are watching her. But this one man comes up and is getting really handsy,
yeah,
trying
little grabby.
assaulting her, and she's defending herself, and she just breaks this bottle and gouges right into his neck. and there's this great shot of the blood splattering all over this other lady's boobs.
It's a great shot.
It's amazing.
Love it. No notes.
So everyone's freaked out, and they start chasing her, and she's running away because she's evil, because she wanted to go out and have a good time and then defended herself against a rapist.
Yeah.
That's evil.
Pure evil.
Mm-hmm.
In her escape, she crosses paths with Lenny, which surprisingly at first he's kind of just trying to help her.
It seems
he?
that way. I have a feeling that his intentions are not so noble.
Probably not. I think more it's just he doesn't want to give away his location, so he's like trying to silence her to be like, "Hey, shh."
Right, and I think
Let's
his name.
hide.
I think his name is fortuitous because he is very much like Lenny from Of Mice and Men.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of like, you know, holding her and patting her, and I think he just wants her to be his bunny rabbit.
you're nice.
You know.
Yeah. But that's not what happens.
Nope.
She shoves him right like out.
Yeah, because he's watching the crowd. They're up in this kind of rafter of this like
a warehouse.
Yeah. And she knows that she's in danger, and she sees her chance, and she like, you know, pushes him, trying to save herself. And he's grabbing onto the ledge, and she just like, you know, smashes his fingers and stuff, and he falls, and everyone's aghast at this, and they're like, "Oh, she just killed a known serial killer, rapist. Oh my God, she's evil. Go get her." So they grab her and they take her to the insane asylum.
Yes. Which there's a scene I want to back up on.
Yeah.
It's before this new day dawns. In the previous day, there's a scene back with James in his office where a police inspector comes to talk to him about Lenny.
Yeah.
Because Lenny's been killing people intermittently about the city.
Right.
And they're kind of going over his file and talking about him and, you know, any tips to try to catch him and stuff. And they get into this whole thing of like, you know, if he's really violent, if we can't just capture him, we may just have to kill him.
Yeah.
Get this under control.
And Lee's like, just bring him back.
Yeah.
I don't care if you kill him or not, but I need his parts, so bring him back.
Just bring him back. I love that scene.
That's great.
But yeah, they take her to James's asylum.
Mm-hmm.
The old insane asylum.
So like, holy shit, it's my niece. So he takes her home, and while he's doing this, he's snooping around, and he discovers the skeleton and the research.
And he's like, "Oh, that's crazy."
And he threatens his brother with blackmail.
Yeah, because he did a blood test when Penelope came in. Mm-hmm. Saw the weird wiggly guys.
Saw the evil cells.
And then when he finds the notes at Emmanuel's place, he pieces it all together.
Yep. He says, "You experimented on your own daughter. You're going to never be able to work again in this town. I'll tell everybody I'm taking your shit, and I'm taking credit for it."
Yep.
So he takes Emmanuel's notes, and later on James is plotting to take the actual skeleton
He
from the
realizes
house.
he needs the specimen.
Yeah, he needs a specimen, yeah.
And he hires
Just thugs.
some spurious individuals to acquire it for him.
Right. So
But I like this scene, the whole like carriage ride out in the rain
Right.
to his house and stuff.
Yeah, so James and the goon go out. The goon goes in, did the dirty work. He's trying to steal the skeleton, but Professor Waterlow comes down. The goon kills him.
Oh, sucks for him.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just an assistant to a very misguided scientist, and the next thing you know, you're dead.
Yep. And while the goon is stealing the skeleton, Penelope wakes up and gets the key to her room. She's locked in her room, but there's like the servant's in there with her. She kills the servant. Okay, this is actually pretty evil.
Yeah.
She's finally done something that I would say, yeah, that's evil.
She's ramped up a little.
Yeah. But she kills the servant, takes the key, and leaves the room.
Emmanuel is like chasing the carriage as they're fleeing, trying to get
He
the
sees
skeleton
them
back.
take the skeleton. And luckily, James has this big, dark cloak that he wraps the skeleton up in. So no one can see it, right?
He knows about the water, too.
Sure. Yep. The good doctor sees his friend dead on the floor and skeleton gone. Yeah. And he looks out, sees James and them taking the skeleton. He gives chase on horseback. And the driver, the goon's driving the cab faster and faster. And eventually it crashes.
Yeah. Too wet, too fast.
Yep.
Tale as old as time.
It pins the driver, and James is like, I'll try to get help. But meanwhile, the skeleton is sitting there, and it begins to rain. Yep, it's storming, begins to rain, it's getting rained on. And Emmanuel finds the overturned cab with the driver killed. And it's not from being crushed, it's like gouged, it's like his throat's open.
Something menaced him.
And he sees this large cloaked form in the woods nearby watching. And I thought that was a cool shot. I love that shot of
ominous.
him. Yeah, it's just...
Now let me ask, do you think that the creature acquired these clothes, or did they regenerate with him?
Well, that was the cloak that James put over him.
You think so?
Yeah.
It didn't quite look the same. Looked like he had an actual outfit.
No.
So I was very amused. I was like, oh, does that just like
I think it's the cloak that he had from before.
A little question.
But I mean, we do see Dracula reconstitute himself fully clothed.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering.
In the
like,
Hammer series. But no. I think this is the cloak that he had. Let's see what happens. Okay. So Emmanuel goes back home, and he's freaking out, and the severed finger's still there, and he just burns it. He throws it in the fireplace.
Moving. It's starting to like try to crawl.
Yeah, it's like moving, yeah. So he grabs the severed penis and chucks it into the fire.
Like you do.
As you do. Meanwhile, there's a dark form approaching the house as Penelope is like leaving it, and it's outside and it's like knocking on the door. You know, you can see its hand and it's missing the finger, and she opens the door and just lets it in. And it just walks in and goes past her.
I mean, they're bros because she's infected.
She's infected with evil. She's you're evil, cool.
Cool, come on in.
Yeah. So it's ransacking the lab. I think the gist is it's looking for its finger.
Yeah.
Because it finds it in the fire and doesn't seem too happy about it.
And Emmanuel tries to hide from it.
Yeah, he is up in his wife's room. He's a wreck. He is like crying. He's lost it.
Full scale Lovecraftian protagonist.
Yeah.
Zero sanity breakdown.
But the creature goes up there and he sees it and he's recoiling in horror. And we see the creature kind of grab his hand, grab Emmanuel's hand.
Takes his penis.
He took my penis hand. I'm taking yours.
No, he takes his finger off.
Takes his finger. We hear a fleshy crunching sound.
Pretty brutal.
Yeah. But the creature itself looks... He's got some flesh on him. He looks kind of waxy. It looks like the severed penis finger. He doesn't have any eyes.
Yeah.
It's like a hollow skull.
Yeah, there's no organs or anything. It's like just the flesh over the skeleton.
Yeah, it's like he hasn't reconstituted enough yet or something.
Yeah.
And we see the shot that Francis actually used for the movie The Skull from the inside of the creature's head.
Oh, yeah. That's a cool shot. Yeah.
So then
we kind of fade back to the frame story.
Yeah, well, James gets back to the house and he finds Penelope like dancing out in the garden.
Oh yeah. That's the last little thing.
And he finds his brother like just insane in the room, like you say, the Lovecraft protagonist just lost it. So then we're back to the present day, and Emmanuel's talking to this visitor of his.
And we learn that this isn't his lab, but a cell in the asylum.
Yep.
James's asylum.
Yep. because Cushing's pleading, "Oh, aren't you going to help me? Please help me." And the guy says, "We are helping you, doctor." And yeah, he's a psychiatric doctor who's conferring with James.
Yeah. And they're kind of going over the case, and
James is explaining that they're not brothers.
yeah.
That this story is a complete fabrication.
He just imagined that.
He even thinks that the woman in the cell next to him is his daughter. And then we see Penelope, and she's like filthy,
Crazy
chained
looking.
up,
Yeah.
and screaming and stuff. And
his explanation, though, I like that. Is like he's like, well, it's normal for my patients to want to identify with me because I'm, the authority figure of the asylum. They see me every day.
often figure in their fantasies. Yeah.
They see him every day. He becomes just a constant in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep. And he also offhandedly mentions that he won the Richter Prize.
Yeah.
Because the guy asks how long has Cushing's character been here, and he says, about 3 years. Right when I won the Richter Prize. And we see Emmanuel like crying at a cell,
begging for help.
And we get a close up of his hand, and there's a finger missing.
Yep.
The end.
Bing bang boom.
But also,
good ending.
If you pay attention, you're looking at him in his cell at that final shot. Behind him is just a cell. It's not a white room.
Yeah. There's
no lab equipment. It's just a cell.
So even that frame story then gets a little
right.
Little dubious.
Is he actually insane? Was all this whole story made up or not? Because wouldn't it be pretty easy to see if James and Emmanuel are brothers or not?
Yeah, there'd be records.
I mean, they have the same last fucking name.
They were apparently rich at one time, so there would be, genealogy and that whole to-do.
So,
yeah.
Interesting.
Ooh, I like that ending.
Yeah. All right.
I got some background stuff.
Yeah, hit me.
Francis wasn't supposed to direct this. It was supposed to be directed by Don Sharp.
Yeah, Don Sharp, who did a great Hammer vampire film called Kiss the Vampire.
Ooh, I like that
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I think Francis did a great job to be coming in last minute and just picking this up. It was filmed in Surrey at Shepperton Studios and Thorpe House. Thorpe House was also used in the film Craze from 1973.
I haven't seen that.
I haven't either. I've got a quote here from Francis talking about working on the film. He said, Peter Cushing was excellent in it, as he always is. He seemed to convince everybody it was real. Even I listened to Peter talking all this rubbish on the screen, and I thought, this has to be true. Peter is real. Even if I listened to Peter... Oh, I already said that. Blah. I messed that up.
God, you suck.
He went on to say, Peter is the greatest guy at speaking unbelievable dialogue and to make you actually believe it. Which echoed something that you said earlier.
Every time. I mean, the man never gave a bad performance.
This is not a Hammer production.
And it's on an Amicus production.
It is often mistakenly considered one or the other. And that's just kind of due to the whole soup that made up this film. Lee and Cushing.
Francis.
Some of the supporting actors, Duncan Lamont, Michael Ripper. The makeup artist was Roy Ashton that worked a lot with Hammer.
All Hammer alum. Yeah. And it was produced by some outfit called World Film Services. I don't even know anything else they ever did.
I'm not sure.
It was distributed by Tygon British Film Productions, and they were a fairly big deal.
Yeah, it's one of those things like you can tell they wanted to do that style. But
they wanted to be Amicus, Hammer, but yeah.
In Brazil, this was given a different name, The Essence of Evil.
Okay. Creeping Flesh is better.
Creeping Flesh is a little misleading, but also cool.
Well, the fleshy severed penis does creep at one point.
It does. The early cinema versions in the UK got cut by the BBFC. They took out the shot of the sailor getting his throat slashed by the bottle. Later releases, though, were done fully and uncut. This got a release on DVD in the UK by DD Home Entertainment in 2004. However, they had to stop production of it and not release it anymore because there were disputes over the rights of the film. Media releases were pretty sparse until April 2017 in the US. Mill Creek Entertainment, you might know them well for those like 50 horror film DVD slop things where they just take public domain movies and shit them out. They started releasing some low budget films they got the rights to in little like collections of 2 or 3 films. And so on a set titled Psycho Circus, you have this film joined with The Brotherhood of Satan from 1971 and Torture Garden from 1967. which was a funny revelation because as you had us do this, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to track down where to watch this. And erroneously, I realized I owned it the entire time.
Sitting on your shelf.
Sitting
just
on the
waiting
shelf.
for you.
I just bought it because I saw this just somewhere cheap for $10, and I was
Sure.
like, hey, 3 horror films.
Yeah.
So one of them's got Cushing and Lee in it.
Mm-hmm.
And
What were the other movies on there?
Brotherhood of Satan and Torture Garden.
Yeah, Torture Garden has... that's the one with Burgess Meredith.
And that's Torture Garden was why I bought it, because that's an anthology film that I've never seen.
Yeah, I think that is an... Is that an Amicus? No, I don't think it is.
I don't know.
Anyway.
And the only spurious connection is like one of them features like a circus in it at one point, so that's why it's called Psycho Circus.
Right.
You can still pick it up. I think I saw now it's like $15-ish on Amazon or so. So
Not bad.
if you dig this film or dig those other 2 films, it's an easy pickup.
Oh, and Torture Garden was also directed by Freddie Francis.
Oh hey, it's almost a little Freddie Francis box set.
Yeah.
Cool. That's all the notes I have. There's not a lot out there about this one.
And it was Amicus.
Do you have anything else, or
Not really. I think you hit all the main stuff.
cool? What'd you think of this? You picked this.
Why
Why did you pick it?
Well, I hadn't seen it in ages, and I was really in the mood for like a Victorian, Gothic British film. I recently got the Cthulhu by Gaslight book.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things I thought about, because I always thought it would make a cool scenario for an adventure.
To do like more sciencey based horror type things.
And
Yeah, I like that.
You find this, skeleton, and shit begins to happen.
What's going on with it? I dig it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I thought of this, and I just also knew it would be a good comfort movie. Like I said, this is something I saw when I was a kid. I just ate up all this stuff when I was a kid. I loved it. And I was afraid you wouldn't like it, actually.
Interesting.
So I'm glad you did. I think it's interesting. It's easy to maybe give this movie too much credit. I don't know, but reading it through a modern lens, especially because they're definitely equating female independence,
Yes, with evil.
and self-agency with evil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which,
Pick that up.
sure, and given the political situation we're in right now, that's not far-fetched even from today.
Apt horror to confront, for sure. And it also makes you then wonder by the ending, too, if this all just is in Emmanuel's head, then he's a pretty fucked up dude, I guess.
If you're judging it solely from the condition of his cell at the end, yeah. I mean, he's just crazy. Which would make sense. That would explain why he's such a poor scientist.
It would explain why he's such a poor scientist.
But then if he's crazy, then what's the point of the movie? Is that like a letdown? Like, because I hate those things where it's all a dream.
Some people make that argument. That is, to some people, that's like a put off.
But then the movie's not real either,
Yeah. It just depends on the execution, I think. And this one, I was satisfied when it got to that point. And I was like, okay, it could all be true or it could be none of it.
It's nebulous enough. It could go either way.
I think part of it is Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing really, make the medicine go down.
Oh, yeah. They're so good. They're so great.
Because when he explains the whole, the mythos of this creature, at first you're just like, fucking what?
Yeah.
But then you're like, it's Peter Cushing, though.
Okay.
Sure.
He sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
Let him cook. Let's watch this for a minute and see what happens.
And I do love the central premise. I love this ancient evil buried under the ground. Maybe it's an alien. Maybe it's a demon. Who knows?
And isn't that kind of like for the time of thing too, like the hubris to think like evil is a disease and we can cure it?
Right. Also, and I don't know if this was conscious on the filmmaker's part or not, but it reminds me a lot of I Am Legend.
Oh yeah, true.
Which was written in the 50s. Because as far as I know, that was the first story that treated vampirism as a disease.
Yeah.
So I would not be shocked if the writer of this had read I Am Legend.
That's a good reference. I like that. I'll just go some of my thoughts. I rarely think I've ever seen a film that is both absolutely fucking stupid, but also super engaging and enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like the actual plot itself and the premise, if you buy it on face value, it's so fucking dumb. This idea that there's a disease of evil that causes everyone to do bad things and that you could cure it and inoculate it.
Right.
It's so stupid and it doesn't even make sense when you say it.
Yeah.
But somehow when Cushing gives his monologue, you're just like, okay, man. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's continue.
Makes sense.
And let's see. I already talked about the no precautions on his science work. Let's see.
Again, 1890s.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
It did subvert my expectations because I did get filtered by the movie poster. I saw the poster and I was like, oh, okay, the skeleton's going to come to life and like menace everyone.
Yeah, monster movie.
Which, I mean, it does at the end, but that's like...
It's not what it's about.
That's like 5 minutes of the whole film. That's not what it's about. And I was pleasantly surprised by that. It has a lot more to do with like the science gone wrong kind of films than like just a straight up monster movie. And I liked that actually it focused a lot on the daughter and like is this a hereditary thing or is it not, or has he caused it by injecting her with this stuff, or
and by hiding what happened to her mother, he has involuntarily, caused her to act out
in the same way.
Yeah, so
I think it makes some interesting stuff. I don't know if they were trying to be very like pro-feminism, but it has some good subtext there for that.
I think to a degree it was.
Just with the whole angle of like Penelope's adventure of going out and getting to that bar and like people kind of conflating her with women of the night, and then that tie-up of like evil, insanity. It seemed that the wife was promiscuous in some way, either by choice or maybe by trade. And then that brings in the thing of like STDs and the way those can affect the body and the brain. So there's like a big juicy core there of like idea that you can play around with when you watch it.
Right.
And it doesn't really make any calls one way or the other in the end, which is cool because you can kind of just interpret that. Maybe it's me giving the film too much credit. Maybe none of that is with their intention, but
it's a reading.
You can read it there, which is that's what's cool about it.
Yeah.
I also think this is like, you would say like a vibe check. Like it made me think of a lot of other media that's cool at the same time. So in some ways I would say like this is aged very well, and it's maybe more prescient than people would give it credit for. Like while I was watching it, this whole like you got these two brothers, they're both like scientist-y types. They're both getting up to heinous shit, and they both kind of know it, and they're kind of at odds. It made me think of Dead Ringers.
Oh yeah.
1988 from Cronenberg.
Yeah.
There you go. You got two gynecologists, both with some weird thoughts in their mind, both unhinged, both kind of ramping one another up into just pure insanity. And then it also made me think of lots of other British science gone wrong films, like the Quatermass films.
Sure.
That same vibe.
It reminded me a lot of Horror Express. Did you ever see that one?
Yeah.
That's where they're on the train and they find this. Turns out it's an alien that was here way before man, and they figure out a way to see what he saw by looking at the fluid in his eyes.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
And then we talked about this has some Lovecraftian elements because you've got like the researching into like ancient civilizations and unknown evils, and then of course Emmanuel's descent into insanity.
Yeah.
And there's actually a Lovecraft story. It's an obscure one. You may have not read it actually. We'll see. But I wanted to talk about it a little bit because it had a lot of close like conceptual parallels, and I don't think it's ever been adapted to film.
Was it one of the ones he like ghost wrote, or
it's one of the ones he collaborated with someone else?
Yeah. I haven't read all those.
Those aren't often published in his collections when it's like the complete fiction. But I just want to talk about it for a minute. It's called The Last Test. He wrote it with Adolphe de Castro, which he did 2 or 3 stories.
I'm really glad you said de Castro.
With Adolphe de Hitler. Oh,
I knew Lovecraft was racist, but Jesus Christ.
Lovecraft just can't win these days. No, Adolphe de Castro. And I think you might know one of the other stories he did with him, which was The Electric Executioner, where there's the crazy guy that made the very first like electric chair type device.
Yeah.
He wants to test it on the dude on the train, and it's
right.
kind of dopey but fun.
All of his co-written stories are very much less than his solo stuff.
But yeah, like the film really gave me the vibe of that, and I was just gonna kind of gloss over the plot of The Last Test, just because I thought it was interesting, like the parallels. So The Last Test is about this dude, Dr. Alfred Clarendon, and he's this world-leading biologist and physician, and he's traveled all over the world researching diseases and this and that, and it focuses on him, his sister Georgina, that he kind of looks after because their parents are dead, and they're like from a rich family. And then he has a childhood best friend named James Dalton, who, like, they were kind of kind to him. He was from a poorer family. And now they're all grown up. They've all gone their different ways. And so the Clarendons, Alfred and his sister, they move out to California because James has become the senator of the state. And James kind of wants to, give back to their family and how they helped him when he was young. And he wants to make Alfred a medical caretaker at San Quentin Penitentiary. Kind of have a nice little, cushy position for him. And when they get to town, this epidemic of black fever breaks out, and it starts in the prison. And so Clarendon really gets focused in on, like, I gotta find the cure for black fever and figure out what's wrong and fix everyone. And it's a lot of, like, pastorally, like, there's this whole thing of, like, Georgina's always loved James Dalton, and they have this thing for one another, but they've never really, like, the fruition in anything. And Alfred's very, like, protective of his sister and doesn't want her, going out on dates. It has that same vibe like Emmanuel does here. And then you've got Alfred doing all this research about how to cure black fever, and he has this assistant that he picked up on one of his travels overseas named Sarama, who's this kind of weird, surly, in Lovecraft terms, I guess you would say, foreigner type.
Yeah.
Who's a little odd, and they're always scheming and plotting and doing weird things, and it kind of ramps up and ramps up and ramps up. And I'm not gonna spoil everything, because you should seek this out and read it. But when it gets into kind of the climax of everything, it's all falling apart for Alfred. He really needs a success, and he tests one of the serums on his sister by infecting her with black fever. And then it kind of puts a timetable on everything to resolve it all, except it all comes down in kind of a Lovecraftian twist where, like, you start to learn more about his assistant Sarama and his connections, and it gets into, like, Atlantis and all that kind of weird Lovecraftian angle stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a really cool story, especially for, like, his collabs, which are usually not the greatest.
No.
But I encourage you to seek that one out, and I actually think it would make a great film in this style of, like, the very 70s British Hammer Amicus vibe.
Cool.
If someone would, like, pick it up and adapt it, it would be perfect.
I wonder if the writer had read of the Keeping Flesh had read that story.
I don't know. I just noticed a lot of thematic parallels there that I thought was cool.
Interesting.
So what'd you rate this?
For me, it's hard to be detached about this because this is one of those, like, comfy movies for me.
Oh, yeah.
It's the sort of thing I could watch on, like, any afternoon.
Probably one of the easiest watches I'd had in a long time.
It's just a nice, comfortable. It's like an old pair of slippers,
Yeah. Just the whole time I was sitting there going, "Cool."
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. I'm gonna because this is also one of those movies. It's kind of like Captain Kronos.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
one of those films that's flawed, but there's so much unique about it and so much good about it. And also, it's one of those movies that I would love to see a remake of this.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
I give it 3.5 stars.
Oh, we're not that far off. I gave it 4 stars.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It was just super fun, man. I loved it.
I'm glad you liked it. I was afraid maybe the in quotation marks plot holes might piss you off or something.
I mean, they're big plot holes, and I would never begrudge anyone that watched this and was like, "That's fucking stupid." 1 star.
Well, if he's really insane, then the plot holes are there for a reason.
True. That is very true. But man, it's so fun. It's so just energetic. It draws you right in. I dug it. I dug it.
It's a great time.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. So that's it. Genre Exposure's back for the year. Creeping Flesh, first one. Knocking it out. We're going to keep this pattern of just doing a few little free-flowing whatevers for now.
Sure.
And I really didn't know what to pick, especially today with everything with David Lynch. I was like, do we need to do a Lynch film? Those do ask a lot of your time and focus, but I had another thought in mind before that, and I think I'm going to stick with it. Because I've never seen this film, and I don't know if you've seen this film. Maybe you have seen this film, but as I looked into it tentatively to see if it was a right pick, I just had that feeling that, like, I need to go for it. So we're going to stay in the 70s. We're going to stay in British horror.
Oh, okay.
And I was really thinking about the fact of how much I loved Lee and Cushing bouncing off one another. And I had this thought of, like, wouldn't it be great if it was them, but also, like, more prominent, cool people? And so I was looking into, like other...
more prominent and cool than Cushing and Lee?
In that caliber. And so I was looking for other stuff, and I found the obvious thing, like, what is it, House of Long Shadows, where it's Lee, Cushing, Price, and...
Basil Rathbone.
Rathbone, yeah. Which that's more of a comedy and kind of poking fun at their careers.
That's not very good.
Not very good. And I found another one, and this one may also not be good, but it intrigued me enough to gamble on it.
Uh-oh. I think I might know what's
From
gonna be.
1970, directed by Gordon Hessler, for Amicus Productions. We're going to watch Scream and Scream Again.
Excellent.
Have you seen this film?
I have.
Okay.
I saw it when I was a teenager.
Oh, okay.
So I haven't seen it
Okay,
since. But I have certain memories of this movie.
Is it bad?
I'm going to let you judge.
We'll find out. It's a blind pick by me. It's got Cushing. It's got Lee. It's got Vincent Price in it.
Sure
I love
does.
Vincent Price. We haven't really talked a lot about him in, like, one of his films directly too much.
Yeah, we need to.
We need to.
We really do.
And this may be a bad one to start on, but, whatever. We'll roll the dice. It's the start of the year. We're not worn down yet. We got the energy. We got the strength.
Sure. Dude, this type of movie, I will watch and talk about all fucking day long. Because even though they're not great, there's still so much interesting about them.
Very true. And Gordon Hessler, he's done a lot. He's done like The Oblong Box, which I've seen. That's a pretty badass film. But I'll read you the synopsis.
Yeah.
A serial killer who drains his victims for blood is on the loose, and London police follow him to a house owned by an eccentric scientist. I also think just the kind of tagline on the poster is amazing, which is triple distilled horror, as powerful as a vat of boiling acid.
Yeah, and it's an amazing poster because it's a woman in a vat of acid, like you see through the it's like a big bottle basically.
Which for the next 2 weeks, I'm gonna have the biggest fucking anticipation of is that in the movie or not, because you don't know with a movie like this.
All right.
But we'll see what happens.
And that movie is modern day, so you get to see the modern day London,
which is fun too.
In the 70s, yeah.
I like the Dracula films they did. That's like the 70s.
Oh
ones.
yeah, AD 73 and Satanic Rites of Dracula.
Yes, those are fun. And what was my thought?
Scream and Scream Again.
Scream again.
See, that was the inspiration for one of the possible names for our podcast.
Was it?
It was a play. It was Stream and Stream Again.
Oh yeah, because at first we were like, are we only going to do stuff that streams?
Yeah,
or...
I thought that could be a fun angle.
Oh, and then to watch this, it's on Tubi, so easy to get at, easy to dig in on. I was looking for media releases. I'll do the full research before we do the episode, but I noticed, I think the most recent release it had was a Twilight Time Blu-ray.
Okay.
Which now, Twilight Time is defunct. The dude that ran that passed away, unfortunately, and they kind of just let it go. I don't know if you know a lot about Twilight Time. They're super interesting. It was like one guy that ran it, and he just licensed films that he liked to release. And the releases always included a commentary from the guy. And he would talk about like why he liked the film and what he appreciated.
It'd be like
about
if we
it.
actually had money and we could
if we just put commentaries on everything.
It'd be fun.
So it was really cool. I have a few films from Twilight Time, but I only started getting into it like as it was
Waning.
tapering off. So
well, I'm sure this movie could probably easily be found on YouTube.
Probably so.
I'm sure it's one of those nebulous rights things too.
Easy to get at, easy to access. Give it a watch if you want, or wait to see what we think and dig in then.
Excellent. Look forward to it.
But that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming back in 2025.
Thank you for suffering through the meows of my cat, Sadie.
We'll get through this year together, my friends, and I'm sure it'll be cool. Sad that David Lynch yeeted out of here, but
it's not a great way to begin the year. There's a lot of bad at the beginning of this year, but god damn it, we're gonna persevere.
As he says, focus on the donut, not the hole.
That's right.
If you want to chat with us, if you want to send us a message of a movie you've watched recently that you like, if you want to talk about Nosferatu, debate me into oblivion about why it's the perfect film, I welcome it. I bring it on. Bring it on.
He thrives on it.
You can reach out to us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Email us at genreexposure@gmail.com. We're happy to take your listener suggestions as well. Always looking for cool films to check out. But otherwise, you have been listening to Genre Exposure.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.